Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. That means, as you know, we have two back-to-back AEW shows. The first one is Dynamite. As you know, AEW, we're in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, so that is going to be a very interesting event. As you know, we're still coming off after what happened last week with Tony Khan viciously attacked by the Elite. But how is things going to go not with them running shenanigans? But we're also going to witness, of course, Kenny Omega making his long waiting return. And as for Rampage, we have some very interesting matches to come around. We have O'Reilly versus Rocky Romero. We even have, of course, a Manitoba massacre between, of course, Sky Blue and Willet Nightingale for the TBS Championship. And then we move on, of course, with some news updates to give you guys updates what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, and of course some developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling. And then of course involving in the news updates, we're going to give you guys updates with MARIGOLD. As you may have known, they are now recruiting more wrestlers. Apparently 4 new trainees have been mentioned, but one of them is a familiar face from Stardom. So let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, talk about various topics like the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also do more news updates. If I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate video by itself. We also do real-timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that has to be addressed ASAP. We also do Nagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool things as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content on this channel as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions have set aside, I believe it's time to get this Wednesday night going. So let's begin with our very first review, AEW Dynamite. Okay, AEW Dynamite. It opens up with Tony Khan, who's of course addressing the situation. So he was told after his vicious attack by the Elite that he was unable to travel due to the injury he obtained. Now he was of course continuing talking about the situation until the broadcast was cut off by, of course, the Elite. So apparently they decided to say, because Tony Khan is not there, that there's an ironclad contract to say that if Tony Khan is unable to be there, that means the Bucks will. So basically the Bucks are now taking over the entire show. But they also put out an intro where you're just only seeing them. So they're trying to act like they are running the show, but things are going to go out of hand. Now, first things first, we do see Swerve Strickland goes out on a promo. As you know, he continues to complain about the Bucks, what they did to Tony Khan, calling what he said last week a bitch move. Now, however, he didn't know that there's going to be a number one contender that will face him for the AEW World Title, and that's going to be at Double or Nothing. However, the Bucks, who were not pleased with Swerve for cursing at them, decided that they found him a right opponent, and he is a Canadian native and someone we haven't seen until his balls were crushed. We're talking about Christian. So all of a sudden he shows up. Then they attack Swerve, and then of course Nana got Wayne's World by Nick Wayne. But why did Christian do this? Well, apparently we've forgotten about certain history between those two. Apparently, Christian Cage told him that there were things he never forgets. Who could forget that Swerve Strickland showed up and attacked Nick Wayne and left him bleeding in a pool of his own blood at his own gym? And not to mention, Swerve embarrassed Christian at Wembley Stadium last year. But now and then he took it too far when he says that you talked about your journey to win the AEW title, how your daughter doesn't recognize you anymore. He goes out saying that once he beats him for the title, that his daughter will recognize him as her father, which is sickening. So basically, that's how it's going to go. So we will see, of course, Christian versus Swerve at Double or Nothing. But the one thing that was very heinous, Killswitch ripped off, of course, a piece of Swerve's hair as a direct message saying that he will end his title reign before his begin. But now I highly doubt that Christian's going to win. But of course, Swerve needs to think something else. Now, our first match is the TNT title. Adam Copeland will face a member of the House of Black. But the obvious question, who was it? Well, it turned out to be Buddy Matthews. And I thought this match was a brutal match, very intensified. But there was a moment where Buddy Matthews was bleeding out the mouth. I don't know if he hurt himself internally or anything. But however, we did see how this match ended with Adam Copeland applying a spear. And then during the post-match, something was possessing him. He was about to pull a double concerto onto Buddy Matthews. Here comes Malachi Black once the lights turned on, telling him to do it. So he wanted him to strike. Now, I don't know if you know this. Someone actually posted this, that this is a long-term story. If you guys don't remember, it was, of course, Buddy Matthews' fiance, Rhea Ripley, that concertoed Beth Phoenix, if you guys remember. So it was more like an eye for that. I don't know if it's part of the story, but we'll see where that leads us. But we did see Adam Copeland talking. He doesn't know what's going on. They were concerned over what how he was. He said he was okay, but of course, Kyle O'Reilly approached him, told him that if he needs an extra hand, that he's there for him. So of course, Adam Copeland appreciated that from him. Now, we haven't seen Samoa Joe since he lost the AEW World title to Swerve, so he faces against Isaiah Cassidy. Now, of course, Isaiah Cassidy has to think fast because the only thing he has to rely on is his speed. Well, it did not do any well for him, but it was Joe who picked up the win when he applied the Muscle Buster, so that kind of changed things a little bit. Now, our next visitor making his way to do a promo in the ring is none more than freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. Of course, he had this outcome how things were going to end at the parking lot brawl at last Saturday's Rampage. He thought that once this match was over, that things will go back to normal, but it seems that things did not. And then, of course, he felt that he was more alone. And then, of course, he revealed that Chuck Taylor will never wrestle again after that brutal, vicious move by Trent Beretta. And even though Trent's is been saying that this was all Orange Cassidy's fault, not to mention Chris Sattler tried to calm things down, but for some odd reason, Don Callis showed up. It made no sense because I think some of you might have thought that, how do I say this? Don Callis would have been observing Trent Beretta. I mean, you guys might have thought the same thing too. I thought, but why Orange Cassidy? It makes absolutely no sense. But there was an exclusive moment where, of course, Trent Beretta thinks that he will get away with it now that he's happy that Chuck is no longer coming back, blaming Orange Cassidy for this. But something tells me we may see a transformation with Orange Cassidy if that's the case. And I think Trent is not going to be too keen on that. But we'll see. Now, moving on. We do see an interview with the Bucks, of course. The Bucks asked Renee Paquette if they seen his buddy, and that buddy is none other than Kenny Omega, as you know, because we were told he was going to be returning to AEW. Now he's not cleared to wrestle in case anybody asks. And then of course Jack Perry talked about last week how he believed this was a long time coming, and yada yada yada, and that sort of thing. But he also believes that they're going to change the world themselves. Now our next match is an FTW title match in the FTW rules. Jericho versus Katsuyori Shibata. Now, of course, Taz, in my opinion, he has to watch out for his blood pressure because he was completely losing his mind. But he was enjoying how Katsuyori Shibata was not using any weapons. But you would think that that wasn't the case. But I think Shibata was being a bit more calculating. He knows that he doesn't need to use them. But how do you try to take out Jericho? Well, try to warn him out as possible. Jericho was using majority of the time of the weapons, but none of it was in effect until out of nowhere Big Bill shows up, and then he chokeslammed him through a door, through a table, and just like that, Jericho retained the belt by pinning him. Now our next interview we see with Renee Paquette. She interviews Chris Statlander, Stokely Hathaway, and of course our TBS champion Willow Nightingale. Now, of course, things got out of hand when Mercedes Moné showed up and all this. Even Chris apologized to Willow about how things went down, and then Stokely decided to, of course, say certain things about the Bucks, and then the Bucks just told them that, of course, Stokely Hathaway and Statlander were banned from ringside. I'm not sure if this is because of what Stokely had, or they think that it was unfair after what happened last time. I don't know, but we'll see where that leads us from here on out. Because Willow will be facing at Rampage Sky Blue in a Manitoba Massacre. Now our next match we have is Claudio Castagnoli versus Brian Cage. This was a pretty good battle of the hosses. I mean, you would think, now we know the Taz, he will analyze, okay, I know how Brian Cage would think, exactly what he will do, but I think there's certain moments he would not have imagined how things were going to be. Of course, doing the giant swing on Brian Cage, but however, it was Claudio Castagnoli with the sharpshooter that put away Brian Cage and forcing him to tap out. Now, our next interview with Renee Paquette, she interviews Rocky Romero. Now, of course, he has been observing what's been going on with the best friends. He doesn't know what to do, but he feels like he's already done and he wants to focus on the next task. And his next task was being in the match at Rampage against Kyle O'Reilly. So we will see that coming up as well. Now, our next match, we have Mariah May versus Serena Deeb. Now, this is a pinnacle match where, of course, if Serena Deeb wins this match, there's the possibility she could challenge for the AEW Women's title. Now, of course, Toni Storm will consider that as a threat. Now, of course, Mariah May try to do whatever it takes to put away Serena Deeb, but you forget she's dealing with a woman who has 1,000 holds, and that's exactly what she did. Serena Deeb did put her away, put her in a surrendering lock, but however, Toni Storm made the ultimate decision where she did not want to see, of course, Mariah May get hurt. She threw in the towel. But the real question is, now we're seeing there's a side where Toni Storm has to be concerned over the fact that her reign as the AEW Women's Championship is coming to an end or threatened. We don't know. But we will observe when that day happens at Double or Nothing because it became official. Now, our next interview with Renee... Oh, no, never mind. I already talked about Adam Copeland. Let's talk about who showed up at the end, and that is Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega addressed to the fans about what happened. He addressed that he had this thing where, of course, that his insides were a ticking time bomb. That if he hurts himself, there's a possibility that he will have this and that. But he was basically afraid. Now, this is a situation we've seen before with Tam Nakano. If you guys remember, Tam injured her knee. She was scared to come back. But it was, of course, the support of her friends who convinced her to come back. Kenny was watching Dynasty, and he felt like, why should he be afraid? So basically, he knew he has to get back. He's not 100%. But however, he addressed the elephant in the room, and that elephant is the Bucks after what they did. But however, Kenny, how to say, confirmed, yes, I am fired from the Elite, but I am an EVP. So basically, he had some power yet, and I think maybe, in my opinion, the Bucks knew that already. That there were things that were standing in their way, and that's when Okada showed up, and Okada declared himself as the best bout machine himself, viciously attacked by Jack Perry. Of course, Kenny tried to fight for his life, but it was just too much. And then, of course, the Bucks had appeared and applied the EVP trigger, and then they tried to do it again. And luckily, the FTR showed up, even though it was too late. So people might have thought we never see the day where the FTR and Kenny will stand together. But that's how things ended. And we'll talk more about that with Kenny at the Rampage review. Okay, AEW Rampage. We did see what happened afterwards. Kenny Omega was viciously attacked by, of course, the Elite. When they were carrying him into a stretcher, we did see that the Elite would stop at nothing but to hurt Kenny further. So they told him they love him, but this is how things have to go. So they're trying to ensure that Kenny, who is of course an EVP, does not stand in their way. Even there was an exclusive interview by Jack Perry. He feels that Kenny is not the hero and that AEW doesn't need him anymore. Well, he's dead wrong. We know AEW needs Kenny. So we know Kenny will be back, or who knows what he will do. But the question does tell, who's going to stop the Elite regardless? It's going to take a full force to stop them. Now our first match of Rampage, should I say, is Jay White versus Dante Martin. Now we did see these two guys compete in for the unified trios titles that we saw. However, we saw that the Bang Bang Gang survived that match. However, this was going to be an interesting match. You would think that with Dante Martin's high flying moves, it would have been suffice, but however, it wasn't enough. It was Jay White with the Blade Runner that put him away, allowing him to pick up the win. However, Jay White decided to, how do I say, try to show respect to Dante, but of course, being the weasel that he is, he attacked him. But however, Darius and Action Andretti were too late. But of course, Jay White is nothing but a snake in the grass. Now, our next interview was with the new girl. I forgot her name. She interviews Deonna Purrazzo. Of course, Deonna Purrazzo has her issues towards Thunder Rosa after what happened last week. So, after what happened, last week, that sort of thing. So, seems the rivalry is going to go down. So, she's sending a direct message to Thunder Rosa. Now, Rene Paquette conducted an interview with Big Bill. Of course, he did meant what he said, that he wants to be part of the learning tree with Jericho. And of course, he meant it. And Jericho, of course, saw what happened. He saw that this is exactly what he needs. So he told him that if he accepts the ways of Jericho, and that's exactly what he did. And of course, Big Bill said that that he will not regret this, that he'll make him proud. So we'll see where that leads us from here on out. Now, after the vicious attack by Christian Cage, Swerve left a little message saying that next week he and Christian Cage will have a little talk, but he also said he will not be alone. I wouldn't be surprised that he will bring the Mogul Embassy to help him out. So we'll see where that leads us from here on out. Now, our next match, we have Kyle O'Reilly versus Rocky Romero. Now, these two guys have competed against each other before. I thought this match was pretty good. I mean, we did see a little bit of the grappling technique. I would have thought that maybe somehow Rocky Romero won, but no, it was Kyle O'Reilly who picked up the win by pinfall, and just like that, it was completely over. And this was a huge, shocking moment for Rocky, but a great match in Canada for Kyle O'Reilly, who is a native from Canada, so that sort of thing. Now, once again, the new girl interviewed Saraya and Harley. Apparently, they have some things to say towards Mariah May and Tony Storm, calling, Mariah May certain names and all that. So I don't know. We know that Saraya had her issues towards Tony Storm in the past, but we'll see where that leads us from here on out. Now, Roderick Strong does an interview again, and this time he talks about Will Ospreay. He is well aware that Ospreay has retired the Tiger Driver 91 after what happened at Dynasty, so he told him to bring it back. So he said that he'll break his back at Double Nothing and to ensure he will remain as the AEW International Champion. So we'll see where that leads us. Now, our main event is the TBS title in a Manitoba Massacre. We have Sky Blue versus the champion, Willow Nightingale. Now, you know Willow Nightingale is not the first time she's been in these matches where you have to use weapons and sharp objects to win. I mean, Willow has to be in so much constant pain. Of course, you would think that this would have been in the wheelhouse for Sky Blue. Well, it kind of was, but however, it was Willow Nightingale who applied a Dr. Bomb through a barbed wire table, and just like that, it was over. Willow retained the belt, just like that. However, we did hear that, of course, it took a few minutes to get Sky Blue out of the barbed wire, so she's okay for now. So we'll see what happens in next week in Dynamite and Rampage. I'm sure there's a lot going to happen, but we'll see. I think that's pretty much it with all the reviews with AEW mostly, but let's jump in with some news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. Our first updates, let's begin with the promotions, starting with GCW. As you know, this coming Friday, I believe, we have the Rather You Than Me show in Tampa. They announced that Trish Adora will be in action to take on Broski Jimmy. And then, of course, on the 18th of May, we have the most notorious in Philly on the 18th of May. Nick Gage will be in action to take on the biggest a-hole on the planet, Tony Deppen. Then, of course, we had a Sunday night special that will take place on the 19th of this month. They returned to the Mecca. I forgot the name of the venue, but yes. Then, of course, the LA show on June 15th. Hit 'em up. Megan Bain will be making her appearance. And then, of course, as you know, they will be making their way back to Asbury Park in August on the 4th. They just announced the name of the show called Can I Trust You? So that's pretty much it for that. Now for updates with GCW, there's two of them. They just announced for the Coast event on the 18th of May, the West Coast Pro Women's World Title will be defended. The Ace of Marvelous Takumi Iroha defends her belt against Sarah Sakir. So that's going to be a very interesting match. And they just announced a brand new show, but this show is called Friday the 13th because it's going to happen on a Friday on September 13th. So very superstitious, but yes. Now, House of Glory has announced for their upcoming event for Cinco de Mayo, Aries will make his return. And then, of course, as you know, they're going to have the Azteca Lucha on the 11th of May. Two matches have been announced, not involved for that, but they will be part of the tapings or whatever. Bobby Fish will be in action to take on the Deaf Samurai Akira. And then there's, of course, a four-way match for the MLW Women's Featherweight title. We have Janai Kai defending her belt against Zeta, Miyu Yamashita, and Delmi Exo. So that's pretty much what's taking place. And then, of course, Republic of Lucha 7, which is a promotion run by the Lucha Brothers. They just announced for their upcoming event called Hit the Lights. That will take place on June 1st. But however, this is a very special event due to the fact, if you guys remember, the Lucha Brothers were part of Lucha Underground. They make their return to the temple after 7 years. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Now, Kitsune Women's Wrestling has announced for their Sugo event on July 14th. Milo will be making her return. Now, 3 new debuts have been announced. We have Emily J, Everly Rivera, and Nina. So those are the three that will be interviewed. Now, for some interesting developments, New Japan Pro Wrestling has announced that Sanada will be absent for the remainder of the Donaka series and altogether shows. But he's currently going to be undergoing medical evaluation. I hope that he is better and I hope he recovers from whatever he is dealing with. As of starting in June 1st, it was revealed by Fightful Select that Scrypts will be released from WWE on June 1st. No further mentions of why, but I'm sure there's a lot of good explanation. Hopefully, they can find out information that we don't know yet, but we'll see. Now, Tiffany Stratton just revealed something in her interview with Chris Van Vliet. As you guys know, she is dating Ludwig Kaiser of the Imperium. Apparently, she revealed that she had to play a little game of rock, paper, scissors on who's going to be going out with who. So basically, she played that game with Ludwig, and of course, Ludwig lost, and he took her out on a date, and the rest is history. People were saying it's a win win situation for both. I mean, personally, I would say, yeah, I think it feels like a win-win. I don't know why she acts like it is a big deal, but I don't know. Now, Fightful Select also reports, as you know, Dijak has been drafted to Raw, but however, it was revealed that he is working, well, he is not in fact re-signed with WWE, despite the fact he was drafted. But however, there's been saying that negotiations have begun. I'm sure they're trying to work up a deal until whenever his contract expires. I don't know. This is nothing similar to what we saw with Drew McIntyre, but we'll see what happens. Now, Tony Khan, as you know, had an interview with Superstar Crossover. Apparently they asked him about Camille. As you know, Camille is now currently signed with AEW, so that's something we haven't that we heard about. But this is what he had to say. Um, I think Camille is a great wrestler. We followed her very closely. She worked a lot of the top AEW talent. As for her status, I can't comment that, but I think she's a tremendous talent that she would be an asset to any wrestling company for sure, including AEW. So yeah, I mean, many people can say she's a valuable asset. We've seen what she can do in the ring and that sort. I mean, any company would want her, but yes. So that's pretty much what we do know. Now, Fightful Select just also reports that Wendy Chu has come back after she's being sidelined. She made her appearance at the NXT Level Up tapings. She just tweeted saying, "Took a long ass nap." Yeah, must have been a real long nap. But yes, I'm happy she's back. She's one of the most fun wrestlers I enjoy to watch on NXT. Madman Fulton just put this on his tweet, talked about his niece. This is what he said. My 7-year-old niece asked me today if girls can have abs, so I showed her a picture of Jordan Grace, and she said, "That's the strongest woman I've ever seen." And I told her about the time Jordan gave me a German suplex, and I think it blew her mind. Jordan, of course, Madman Fulton tagged Jordan Grace, and she put "Oh my God" and 5 crying emojis. But of course, he replied back to her saying, You're her new second favorite behind Taylor Swift." So I think that's kind of sweet. That, of course, you know, for a little girl to see that yes, women do have abs, and of course Fulton showing his niece that yes, he knows someone who can pull it off. So it's great to hear that. Um, as you know, what happened last week on Dynamite with Tony Khan, Jeff Jarrett went on Fightful Select. He jokingly said that at hitting Tony Khan with the guitar would have been a win-win-win. I mean, yeah, we've seen that Jeff Jarrett. I mean, it would have been like a real interesting thing, but yeah, we'll see. Now, Taz has been reported that he will be having a knees and shoulder replacement. I just hope he has a speedy recovery and all that. Now, an interesting development has happened. There's been a file marked that's been trade called Maple Leaf Wrestling. Um, Let me fool you what I did learn from that. Marked for Maple Leaf Wrestling trademark, registration is intended to cover the categories of hats, shirts, socks, bananas, shirts, and bandana shirts, short sleeves, sweaters, clothing jackets, and hula shirt. Entertainment is nature wrestling contest, entertainment service, namely wrestling exhibits, performance by professional wrestlers and entertainers. Entertainment service, namely live. So yes, from what I'm hearing is that this registration had the address of Boulder City Wrestling, which is a training ground for Scott D'Amore. So there's people that believe that maybe the Scott D'Amore had something to do with it. Now, Darby Allin, as you know, has been made another announcement. He is planning to go the Mount Everest in 2024, and he said, "You can't stop me." So, good luck who's trying to stop him. Now, as you know, for the All Together show coming up soon, Natsupoi and Starlight Kid will be teaming. Recently, of course, Natsupoi has been asking. Now, this is prior before she was kicked out of Oedo Tai. Um, Starlight Kid asked her what's the name of their tag team. Well, it happened during a YouTube clip that they posted on Stardom's YouTube channel, and Natsupoi called her team the Ryu Amoy, which stands for Team Natural Love. I don't know why, but it was interesting to hear that. But I'm sure Starlight Kid is having a hard time trying to understand, but she'll grow eventually. But we'll see. Um, Hina, who is one of the three Hanan sisters, along with Hanan and Rina in Stardom, she just announced that she'll be making her return to Stardom. Her first match will be on May 12th on a Sunday in Corkin Hall. Now, speaking of Stardom, as you know, we saw recently Tam Nakano went to save Starlight Kid. Um, they asked her why did she help Starlight Kid from Oedo Tai, and this is what she had to say. Kid-chan is a kind-hearted, serious, and I thought no matter how bad she acts, she didn't fit with Oedo Tai's style, and she felt that she wasn't progressing well. I was worried about the match that day, and when I watched it, I saw her getting beating up. I couldn't stand there anymore, so my legs started moving on their own. So I also had been in the same situation. I saw a lot of overlap between Kid-chan and myself back when she back then when. And now, if you guys don't know what she was referring to, Tam Nakano early in her career in Stardom, she used to be a member of Oedo Tai, and she was expelled from that group in January of 2018 when she lost in an elimination match against Queen's Quest, and it made perfect sense. And she even talked about uh, says that she needs Starlight Kid and thoughts on potential team up. This is what she is. Since I came back, I've been fighting for Stardom and Cosmic Angels, but I wanted to fight myself for by fighting Aja Kong. For that reason, I needed Kid-chan right now, and I felt the darkness is chipping away little by little since she returned to Kid-chan that she was once back then. It made me feel nostalgic to see that I was able to understand Tam's movements in the match. I think we could become a tag team that has potential to become the best tag team. Tam wants to team up with Kid-chan. So yes, we've been seeing that. Now recently we saw that Mayu Watani is trying to convince, of course, Starlight Kid to come back to Stars where she belongs. But Scott Edwards put something out that was very interesting. He believes that Zuki will not be too keen on the idea of Starlight Kid coming back. I will do a discussion video about this at some other point, but I think that's pretty much it with our developments. Now let's talk about updates with MARIGOLD. As you know, they just been recruiting new people. Four names have been announced. Now this name I put it on the top because I mentioned her before. We have Yuki Nimani, who is a former wrestler in Ice Ribbon. She participated in the project show The Challenge, but however, her agency announced that she terminated her contract with the company. No announcements was made after what's going to happen now, but recently she just announced that she is now a full-blown trainee with, of course, MARIGOLD. Now the next person we have Nagisa Tachibana. She is a gravure idol, and of course part of an idol group called EQ Lips. She's into Mahjong and muscle training. The third trainee, we have Ruko Sakimura, another gravure idol, and of course from the idol group known as Clip Clip. And then the last one, this one I was saving for last for all of you. We have Komomo Minami. Now, if you guys don't recognize the name, I just found out who she was. She was that former Stardom trainee that we were supposed to see last year in March. She was part of the same class with Hanako and Aya Sakura. Now, she was the one who disappeared, what we did not know, but we were told that her appearance with Stardom was postponed. But she never made her debut with Stardom, and now she's in MARIGOLD, which was rather interesting to hear. So these are the trainees for MARIGOLD. I'm sure there'll be more names mentioned. But I think that's pretty much it, what we have now. I think it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we have the Unagi Sayaka watch. It's finally going to happen. I'm not BSing this time for all of you. It took a long time because recently I've been caught up what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, keeping up with everything. But now is the perfect timing, and I feel so confident that we're going to get that done. Now, for our next episode, is no doubt we have TNA and Ring of Honor. I'm looking forward to that as well. I haven't decided there's going to be another review before that. Reason is I'm going back to work and it might take some time away. But for now, that's what we're going to do. We'll leave things just like that and we will move forward. But as of right now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day.